What happens when you want to speak English fluently, but the words always seem just out of reach? This is the story of Mia, a determined learner who discovers that finding her voice isn't about perfection, it's about courage. Mia had always dreamed of speaking fluent English. Growing up in a small town, she'd spent countless hours watching English movies, listening to podcasts, and practicing in front of the mirror. But every time she tried to speak with someone, the words seemed to vanish. Her co-workers would ask her questions, and she had freeze. At the coffee shop, she'd rehearse her order in her mind, only to stumble over it at the counter. The frustration was overwhelming, but she couldn't give up. Her dream of working abroad depended on her improving her English. One day, during a team meeting, her manager asked her to share her thoughts. Mia's heart raced. She knew what she wanted to say, but the words tangled in her mind. After a long pause, she muttered, "Sorry, I can't explain." And the discussion moved on. That evening, Mia sat in her tiny apartment, replaying the moment in her head. "Why do I always forget the words?" she whispered to herself, feeling the weight of disappointment. Determined to improve, Mia signed up for an English conversation class at a community center. On the first day, she met Alex, the instructor. Alex was lively and encouraging, with a way of making everyone feel at ease. "I know how frustrating it can be to forget words," Alex said during the introduction. "But remember, communication isn't about being perfect, it's about trying." Mia wasn't convinced. How could she try when her mind went blank every time she opened her mouth? During the class, Alex introduced a game called Speak Without Thinking. Students were given random topics and had to speak for 1 minute, no pauses allowed. Mia dreaded her turn, but when it came, Alex smiled warmly. "You've got this, Mia." Her topic was favorite foods. Mia stammered, hesitated, and used words like and "you know" more times than she could count. But by the end of the minute, she had done it. She had spoken. "You see?" Alex said, clapping. "The words are in there. You just need to let them out." Encouraged by the class, Mia started practicing differently. Instead of memorizing perfect sentences, she focused on expressing her ideas, no matter how clumsy they sounded. She talked to herself while cooking, narrated her day in English, and even joined online forums to chat with other learners. One day at the coffee shop, the barista asked, "How's your day going?" Instead of freezing, Mia smiled and said, "Good, thank you. How about you?" It wasn't much, but it felt like a victory. Her confidence grew slowly but steadily. At work, she started contributing small ideas during meetings. Her co-workers noticed her efforts and encouraged her. Every time she stumbled, she reminded herself of Alex's words. "It's not about perfection. It's about trying." Months later, Mia had to give a presentation at work. It was her biggest challenge yet, a 10-minute talk in English in front of her entire team. She prepared tirelessly, practicing her speech over and over. But on the day of the presentation, nerves got the better of her. Her hands shook as she stood in front of the room. Taking a deep breath, she looked at her audience and said, "I want to share something important, but I might forget some words. Please be patient with me." Her honesty drew smiles and nods of encouragement, and as she began, the words flowed. Not perfectly, but enough. By the end, her co-workers applauded, and Mia felt a rush of pride she hadn't known before. Mia's journey didn't end there. She continued to make mistakes, to forget words, and to stumble, but each time she picked herself up and kept going. Over time, English became not just a skill, but a part of who she was. One day, she looked back on her struggles and smiled. The girl who used to freeze at simple questions had become a confident speaker, not because she stopped forgetting words, but because she stopped letting fear hold her back. Mia's story is a reminder that fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to try.